After the class ended, Roxanne immediately sprawled out on her bed, covered with a woolen blanket as soon as she returned to the dormitory. She glanced at the other side, noticing that Shira Smith hadn't returned yet, which slightly relieved her. Roxanne wondered how Shira always managed to maintain her haughty and superior demeanor. Wasn't it exhausting? Fortunately, the class covered only basic and easy-to-understand content. Roxanne's mind would be filled with Elliot Wood's vague, intriguing response and the haunted realm of Sibling River that Zoe Kim mentioned, leaving no room for anything else. Her conversation with Zoe was cut due to the class time, and Zoe apologized for inadvertently revealing everything about Sibling River. She didn't mean to scare Roxanne. Roxanne told her not to blame herself, she feeling somewhat more settled after the discussion. Unknowns are the most terrifying, and the information Roxanne got from Zoe made the vague and eerie feelings more concrete, reducing the sense of unease. In simple terms, Sibling River had become a new hotspot for suicides in recent years, something she had heard about in other places during her childhood. Sibling River, being vast, long, and rapid, made it understandable why many chose it as a place to end their lives. But aside from that, it was just a regular river. The place where her mother started feeling unwell wasn't the haunted realm Zoe mentioned. It wasn't even close. Roxanne suddenly felt she had overreacted, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. Before leaving, Roxanne thanked Zoe for the coffee, and then Zoe asked her an odd question.
Roxanne, did you notice what color the words on Elliot's leather wristband were?
Roxanne honestly replied that she did see a leather wristband on Elliot's hand but didn't notice the details. Only then did she realize that Zoe was also wearing a white leather wristband. Suddenly, there was a crisp ding-dong sound from her pocket. Roxanne pulled out her pocket, seeing a message from Lona with a 31-second video attached, followed by a text.
Look at this. Isn't it crazy? What was she doing there in the middle of the night?
Sitting up, Roxanne leaned back against the pillow, hugging her legs to her chest, and resting her chin on her knees. She played the video. Lona's phone had the best night recording feature on the market, something Roxanne knew because she was the one who gave the phone to her sister. But judging from the blurriness of the video, the lighting was nearly non-existent. As Lona moved forward, the camera shook, approaching a car flashing its hazard lights. However, the shooting angle was too close, and Roxanne couldn't immediately identify the location. As Lona approached the car, she muttered,
Really? What do we owe you from our past lives?
The camera wobbled to the driver's side of the car, showing that the headlights were off and the window was halfway down, with Sandy asleep in the driver's seat. Lona reached into the car, shaking Sandy.
Mom? Mom?
Sandy woke up startled, looking around bewildered before her gaze settled on the camera.
Lona?
Lona scolded angrily.
Why did you leave in the middle of the night without your phone, trying to scare us to death? And it's almost 2:30 a.m. What are you doing out here? Whatever this place is. I almost couldn't locate you with my phone. The taxi driver circled around for a long time before I saw your car. Good thing I have sharp night vision.
Sandy looked confusedly at herself, noticing the seatbelt fastened, and asked with a frown.
How am I in the car?
Lona replied angrily.
You tell me.
Sandy, overwhelmed by her daughter's anger, unbuckled her seatbelt and slowly crawled to the back seat, resting her hand on her forehead.
Lona, can you drive us home? My head feels so heavy. I can't think right now.
Then another message from Lona arrived.
The craziest part is, when I asked her this morning why she drove there last night, Mom had no memory of it. You should get her checked out.
In the video, Lona turned the camera around, briefly surveying the surroundings, rolling her eyes in frustration and helplessness.
Sister, you see, Mom drove out here all by herself in the middle of the night. She recently had a full-body health check, didn't she? Pay attention. Something's not right with her.
As Lona turned the camera back on herself, Roxanne's expression turned to horror. Although the image was blurry, she could faintly make out the courtyard house of Elliot Woods, the bridge where her uncle stopped the car, the large, unrailing river behind Lona, and near the riverbank, not far behind her sister, a woman in white. The figure of the woman with long, wet hair clinging to her emaciated, pale face, her eye sockets hollow, her jaw hanging down to her collarbone, stared directly at Lona's camera. But Lona didn't notice, continuing to speak to the camera.
That's it for now. I'm going to drive Mom home. I'll be nodding off at work tomorrow because of her.
Roxanne Summer.
Roxanne jolted backwards, startled by the sudden call. Shira, equally startled by Roxanne's reaction, asked,
What? What's wrong? Didn't you notice I came back?
Realizing it was her roommate, Roxanne slowly recovered from the shock.
Sorry. When I'm focused, I don't hear anything else.
As she spoke, Roxanne glanced at her phone. The video had ended. She took a deep breath, mustered her courage, and scrolled the video back to the moment she saw the strange thing.
Really? What were you watching so intently?
Shira murmured as she settled at her desk and opened her laptop. Roxanne replayed the last segment of the video several times, but the woman by the riverbank didn't reappear. Turning off her phone screen, she clenched her fists against her forehead, exhaling deeply.
It must have been a hallucination from lack of sleep.
Roxanne turned her phone back on and dialed her mother's number. Shira glanced at Roxanne occasionally, finally asking with a hint of her usual aloofness,
Hey, have you found a partner for the night treasure hunt?
The phone started ringing on the other end. Roxanne stood up, headed towards the door, and nodded at Shira.
Sorry, Shira, I need to take this call. Just give me a sec, okay?
As soon as she closed the dorm room door, Sandy answered the phone.
Hello, Roxanne, how's the camp going?
Roxanne responded with a serious tone.
Mom, I want to talk to you about what happened last night.
A few minutes later, Roxanne returned to the room, feeling defeated. She sent a message to Lona.
I talked to Mom. She really has no memory of it at all, and she's freaked out because we both said the same thing. The earliest we can move up the health checkup is the day after tomorrow. Mom will add a brain exam. Let's just wait patiently for the results.
Roxanne roughly estimated that if her mom really had Alzheimer's, after the insurance reimbursement, she'd have to work 2 part-time jobs in Oteona Federation to simultaneously cover her mother's medical expenses and her own abroad expenses. And that's only if she successfully completed this 5-day camp and achieved a 40% tuition reduction.
Are you okay?
Shira Smith's voice came through, her tone soft as if she were talking to a kitten. Roxanne looked up and sees Shira leaning on the desk with one elbow, facing her.
Your face is filled with frustration.
Roxanne quickly brushed away the gloom and showed a smile, shrugging.
It's nothing. I guess the universe thought things were going too smoothly for me and decided to give me some challenges.
Shira's desk was close to the door, and she could vaguely overhear what Roxanne was saying on phone. She guessed it was family issues. The hot potato that everyone couldn't shake off. The world's most difficult problem to solve, or even unsolvable. Roxanne was afraid the atmosphere would remain awkward, so she immediately changed the subject.
You mentioned partners for tomorrow night's competition. I haven't found one yet.
Because she had completely forgotten about it. Shira quietly looked at Roxanne for a few seconds, then turned back to continue typing on her laptop, casually throwing out a sentence.
Then let's be partners.
She didn't dislike stubborn people or those who were good at hiding their weaknesses and scars because she herself belonged to this type. A certain degree of defense was necessary to survive in this cruel world. After all, in this day and age, kind people were few, while those waiting to pour oil on the fire and sprinkle salt on wounds were plentiful. She just didn't expect that Roxanne Summer, who looked always spacing out and didn't think about anything on the outside, going with the flow, was vastly different from the other brainless girl who couldn't wait to announce their grievances to the world.
Huh?
Roxanne instinctively doubted her hearing, thinking that Shira was going to sarcastically mock her for being slow again or something.
Don't we need to be in pairs for the night competition?
Shira stared at the computer screen. Roxanne couldn't see her face, but her tone was a bit awkward and shy.
If you still don't know who to pair up with, then let's be partners.
Of course. That's great.
Roxanne certainly wouldn't refuse the opportunity to save herself the trouble of finding a partner. Roxanne sat on the edge of the bed, thinking that she needed to take a shower first to calm down, but she was so tired. She had received a lot of explosive information today. Sibling River, Haunted Realm, Mom possibly having Alzheimer's. It was a bit overwhelming for her. Shira glanced at Roxanne. There was naturally a reason for asking her to be partners. She wanted to know how someone as silly as Roxanne Summer could know Zoe Kim, who was listed as the prime suspect of being a Walled Empire spy. Moreover, their interaction seemed close and natural, as if they were familiar with each other. Being partners for the night competition would give her plenty of time to investigate whether Roxanne, who looked like an ordinary civilian, had any secrets. With some luck, she might even obtain useful evidence. Once Zoe Kim was confirmed to be a foreign spy, Shira's mission for coming to this pre-camp would be successfully completed. With this in mind, Shira stood up and walked towards Roxanne.
Hey, Roxanne Summer.
Roxanne looked up with a dazed expression and saw Shira standing in front of her with one hand in her pocket, her enchanting, slender eyes staring at her earnestly.
I misunderstood you this morning, and I said something really awful. I'm sorry. I owe you one.
It seemed that Roxanne had also left the room in the middle of the night because of family issues, but she was unwilling to reveal more about her private matters, which was why she didn't use this to refute Shira's accusations. Roxanne waved her hand, not wanting to dwell on this matter.
Oh, it's enough that you're willing to believe me. I can also understand your concern about losing points for comprehensive conduct.
As soon as she finished speaking, Shira grabbed Roxanne's hand and pulled her up from the bed.
Come on, let me buy you to dinner and drinks. It's... Just say whatever you want to eat.
At this moment, the lack of sleep and powerless Roxanne could only let Shira have her way.